Thank you, Your Honor. Could you introduce yourself to the court and spell your last name, please?
Chris Wetjen, last name is spelled W-E-T-J-E-N.
Thank you. Could you tell us how you're presently employed? How are you presently employed?
Yes, Dean of Students.
Where's that?
Dean of Students.
Where?
Patriots Academy.
Thank you. And can you give the court just a summary of your work experience?
I've been in St. Johns County for 35 years in education.
Okay.
17 of it is in physical education. The other part's been as Dean of Students.
Okay. And can you tell the court what it means to be Dean of Students?
I handle the discipline in the school.
Okay. And you're here today pursuant to a subpoena, is that true?
That's correct.
Thank you. As part of your role at the school, can you kind of elaborate on what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, besides the discipline, what I try to do is communicate with the kids, go in and out of the classrooms, just trying to be visible as much as possible.
Okay. Is it fair to say there's about 1,600 kids at POA?
That's correct,
And
K through 8.
You don't work with every one of them, right?
No.
You just work with the ones that have discipline issues?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I try to work with all the kids remotely as much as possible. So, but mainly the ones I deal with mostly are the ones with discipline. That's correct.
Okay. You don't address the academic side of their experience at school, you address the behavioral side?
That's correct.
Okay. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. I don't need to no education part of it. That's correct.
Do you do this alone, or do you have a partner at the school that you work with?
Paul Beasley, Deputy Beasley, is my YRD. We work together a lot on some things.
And he has a similar role?
His is a little bit different, but we work together. Some things fall over into law enforcement where he'll have to take over.
Okay.
And then the school district would, have enforcement on.
Okay, so you were saying part of your day-to-day thing is to pop into classes a couple days a week.
Yeah, just try to make myself as visible as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. So specifically talking about why we're here today for Mr. Fuchi, were you aware of Aiden Fucci before he even came to POA?
Yes, I was.
And why is that?
Because some discipline issues that he had before he came to me his prior school.
Okay, so it's no secret there's some discipline behavioral issues coming your way. Okay, did you also know his brother?
I did.
Did you work with his brother?
A little bit, had a good rapport with him.
Okay. All right. So can you tell me specifically, or tell the court, I'm sorry, specifically how you worked with Mr. Fuchi, Aiden?
When Aiden came to school, I introduced myself to him and brought him to my office. We talked about some things that perhaps was how he got in trouble before he got to Patriots Academy. And we went over some things and tried to give some guidance and trying to mentor him. And so when he was in the classroom, things that he would get frustrated, because that's what he would get frustrated sometimes, that he had the green light to ask the teacher before something developed, could he come see me? And he was able to do that. He would come down and see me, and we would talk about what's frustrating, what's on his mind, what's making him upset. We go through that, I educate him through it, and we get him back in class.
Okay. So the teachers were on board with that. He could say, look, I'm just going to see Dean Wetjen.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, was this available to Aiden on, say, the circumstance where suddenly there's a pop quiz? Was he allowed to come see you?
No, this is for something if he was frustrated or
This is about
getting upset for a discipline situation. So we went into it, so we would not get into a discipline situation, excuse me.
Could you tell the court about how often Aiden would take advantage of that situation?
There's not a set number.
Opportunity.
On the average, it would, he did take advantage of it and come see me. I would say it was, at first it was a little bit more so because I think he learned from our conversations and things that we did, and it would lessen. And then some days maybe it would spike a week or two, depending on what's going on at home with the kids. You never know.
Okay. Do you keep notes of every time a student comes to your office?
No, I do not.
Okay. Did you also encourage Aiden to meet with you, say, one day a week?
Yeah, we met on Wednesday, which is our early release day.
Uh-huh.
And what we would do on that day is we would work together with any work that he was falling behind on, or make sure we kept his grades up, because our goal was to make sure that he got over to the high school the following year.
And would he participate in
Yes.
that? He would come meet with you on Wednesdays?
Absolutely. Yes.
And would he work with you as it was planned to do?
Yes, yeah. I don't think he ever really missed any Wednesdays at all. Actually,
Okay.
he was always there.
Okay. I mean, did he ever come in on a Wednesday and not listen to what you had to say, or did he always kind of
No, he came
do
in
what
and
you
always
asked?
did his work.
Okay. Did Aiden Fucci ever speak with you about personal issues? And we don't have to get into them. I'm just asking if he
Right?
did.
No.
No.
Really.
Okay. So, can you tell the court what your discipline process was like? Did you have preventative measures in place?
Yeah, at our school, we have some, we call it a STEP program, and things.
What does that mean?
Things are not highly. If somebody got in a fight or something, then of course it's automatic referral. You down. I'm coming to get you or whatever. But the first step would be like a warning, something that doesn't involve that you need to call the dean for. The second step would be the parent would call home and say your child did this the first time, and now this is the second time they've done something. So we
Okay.
try to get that communication going.
Okay.
And the third time, and every time after that, the student would meet with me in my office. And I would go over those steps with them. Hey, what did you do? Why did you do it? Sometime there would be a certain time of the day. If a kid's on medication, maybe it's not kicking in. Could be in the afternoon. Could be a subject area. Well, we try to find that common denominator. And at the same time, we would educate, this is what you're doing. This is what you need to correct.
Okay.
And at some point in time, there would be a consequence that would go with that.
Okay. That's your process. And did you implement that process with Aiden?
Of course.
Okay. Can you tell the court what Aiden Fucci's suspension record was, if you remember?
Yeah, he was only suspended one time.
Okay. And in your experience, is that a lot for a
No.
person? Okay. Now, why do you say no?
Because I've had kids, suspended multiple times.
Okay.
We have in St. Johns County, if you're suspended up to 15 days, which I have had at other schools, you're referred to another school, which is called Gaines Alternative.
Great.
So,
Okay. Have you ever seen Aiden vaping in school?
no,
Have you ever seen him using any drugs in school?
no,
You ever seen him carry a knife in school?
no,
All right. Kind of changing channels a little bit. Did you ever observe him with his sister? Your school is K through 8,
that's correct.
right? Did you ever observe him with his sister?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the court what you observed?
It's we have two pickups, a red lot and a blue lot. The red lot's for K through 5, and then the blue lot is for middle school. But if you have a sibling and you're in middle school, that is K through 5, that sibling would go with that middle school student to the blue lot.
Okay.
And Aiden would be with his sister a lot, and he would always hold her hand, and I always noticed that he would always be up there holding her hand.
So he's in a category of students that are more like his peers, 5 through 8, right? And in the blue line, you're saying?
The blue lots is for the middle school. The red lot's K through 5.
Right. So where is he? Is he in the
He would be in the blue lot for middle school.
holding the hand of a second grader, you're saying?
Yeah, he would be with his sister because he's the middle school.
Gotcha.
He would the kindergarten, the K through 5 student would follow the middle school person to the blue lot.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
All right.
And just to be clear, you never worked with Tristan Bailey.
No.
Okay. Can you describe to the court how Aiden Fucci responded to you in your work with him?
He was very respectful. He listened to me. He learned a lot. I think his discipline record from where he came to what he ended up doing at our school showed that.
Okay. So what you offer is an opportunity to address his behavior before he gets in trouble.
Correct.
Is that
That's
fair?
how the program is set up, preventative.
Yes, sir. And I keep saying take advantage of. Some people think that's a phrase that's, you're taking advantage of a person. What I'm saying is he takes advantage of that opportunity. To avoid getting in trouble,
Yeah, he would come see me when he got frustrated before something happened, because that was the rule. If you got frustrated and got in trouble, then that didn't count. If you feel yourself getting frustrated or upset, ask to see me before a situation occurred.
Yes, sir. And did you notice his behavior improve?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe to the court how you noticed that? What did you notice?
Well, he didn't have to come see me as often as he did at the very beginning.
Okay. Okay. That's a good way to measure it. Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Thanks, Judge.
Good afternoon, Dean Wetjen.
Good afternoon.
Dean, you started the beginning of your testimony by explaining when Mr. Attic asked you if you knew of Aiden Fucci before he even came to Patriot Oaks. You indicated you did, correct?
Correct.
And what was the basis of that knowledge? How did
I was alerted, I had a student coming, I believe it was from Fruit Cove he came from, that had 17 different incidents, which was a high behavior level. And then with that being happened, I would latch on to a kid, when I say latch on to, mentor that person, and that's how I got alerted.
Okay. And so he has, I believe you said, about 17 prior disciplinary incidents
If I remember correctly, yes.
at the
Prior.
previous school.
Yes.
And so you pick up with him when? The beginning of the semester in 2021?
As soon as he came to school.
Yeah, so that January, correct?
Yeah, whatever day it was, I don't remember.
Not the exact day, but that
Right, yeah.
beginning of that year.
Yes, that's correct.
And so you knew who he was. Do you give him the opportunity to do this STEP program as you described, or are you already plugged in with him and involved from the beginning?
That's for everybody at the school. Everybody had, that's how it's all based. That's how our discipline program is based for everybody.
Okay. Were you fairly quickly then involved, though, through that STEP program? It sounds like you were involved with him from the beginning.
Well, I was involved with him because of the number of discipline he had before he got there. So then that's how I introduced myself to him, talked to him about his challenges that he had previously, let him know what how our program worked, and then give him some opportunities to use, perhaps maybe not to get to the discipline stuff that he did before.
Okay, so you did that right off the bat with him. You didn't wait to just see how he acted at
No,
Patriot Oaks.
I would do that with any students coming to my school that have some disciplinary problems before they got there.
Okay, and you went through that process that you explained that he would be allowed to ask to come see you if he felt like he was going to get mad or frustrated and maybe act out in a classroom. Is that a fair way to describe it?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. You educated him. I think you used that word.
Yes,
I think you said in the past, discipline doesn't work without education.
yes, that is my phrase.
Right. And he learned from those conversations, right?
That's correct.
So he was able to appreciate the risk of acting out in a classroom and getting in trouble and instead excuse himself to come find you if he needed to.
That's correct.
Okay. You've described him as more mature than his peers and very mature in the past, correct?
Correct.
You've also said that Aiden had one of those attitudes where everything that happens is someone else's fault, not his own. That was sort of his general attitude when you met him.
Yes, that was a big part of our educational piece, is to look at himself versus everyone else.
Right. Easily frustrated at authority specifically, correct?
Yes, he did not like to be disrespected.
Okay. And you indicated he had a temper, which is why you're working with him, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You stated earlier that he was suspended one time. When you refer to that, is that OSS or out of school suspension?
It was out of school suspension. It was a time where he got in school suspension with one of his friends, and when they were in the in school suspension room, they were rude and disrespectful to the coworker that was in there, and so therefore I just suspend both of them
Okay.
for their behavior for that.
And you kind of oversaw, or are you the one making the decision for ISS, in school suspension?
Yes,
Okay. And he had several of those while he was at Patriot Oaks, correct?
no, he only had two.
He had two, okay. Two of those and then one OSS, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in the suspension record that you reviewed, and then I think this incident occurred, it definitely occurred in April of 2021. Do you recall an incident wherein he threatened violence against another student?
Yes, I do.
Is that the incident that wound him up in the
In
ISS
ISS
that you just referred to?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the threat in that incident?
Well, at first, I didn't know if it was him or his friend that was in ISS, and that's why they were in ISS, because one was saying the other one said it.
But the allegation was that Aiden threatened to throw another student out a window.
That's correct.
A female student.
That's correct.
Okay. And so that was the last time he ended up in ISS and then acted out in ISS and he was suspended.
Yeah, he got Yes, for acting out, but he also got it for the threat too. But I found out afterwards because I had to go through some process with both the kids to figure out who said what, and then talk with some kids in the classroom.
Okay. And so it was determined he was the one that made the threat.
That's correct.
To throw the girl out the window. You've stated that, again, he didn't like to be disrespected. He had the temper. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. And you were never suspicious of any drug use by Aiden, correct?
No, it's not.
You didn't have any problem, other than the fact that you're dealing with a child with behavioral problems, but you didn't have a problem communicating with him communicating with you, and at least attempting to put some of the education you gave him into practice, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
None at all.
And did you ever observe him responding to external stimuli, like he was hearing things, or
Never.
no observations of suffering from any sort of mental illness that would have caused you concern to report it?
Absolutely not.
All right, no further questions.
Briefly, Judge, briefly. Just quickly, speaking about that incident, do you have a memory of that incident?
Pretty fairly, yes.
Is it fair to say that it was alleged that he was hit with a pencil from another student?
Yeah, it was another student had thrown something at him, and I believe it was a pencil. And then back then we had these COVID shields, and he threw it back at the girl, and so did his friend. But I think there was some more things that happened too that wasn't totally reported. There was a little bit more back and forth that I didn't get all the information, but there was things thrown back and forth.
Is the friend someone that went by the name Trey?
That's correct.
You're familiar with the windows at the school, right?
Yes.
Are they locked? Is it possible to open them?
Yeah, you can open them.
Okay. And could a person fit through them?
Yes.
You think so? Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go.